Mother?
Yes,
I was a very angry young man, and then my children were born. Thank you. I got out for, my wife was very pregnant at the time with twins, and I'd taken my dog out for a walk. Got home, it was early in the morning, heard from upstairs, "How do you feel about having babies today?" And I said, "Well, I've got other plans." See, my wallet had been stolen, so I had to go to the DMV. We were living on a military base, so I had to go to the military ID office. And I had planned on substitute teaching that day. She said, "Well, I called the hospital. They said you've got some time, so you can go and replace your IDs, but we need to check into the hospital this morning." Took off for the DMV, was the first one in line, got my driver's license, no problem. Went to the military ID office and found that as a spouse, I have no rights. You know, as a military, as the wife of an officer, it didn't matter. I went to the ID office, went inside, young yeoman behind the desk, explained the situation, said my wife is very pregnant, she's in labor, I need to get my ID replaced. And he said, "Well, sir, it's going to be 2 days before we can do that. We'll go ahead and take a picture today, but we can't issue the ID for another 2 days." I said, "Can I use your phone for a minute?" And I called my wife, who happened to be a lieutenant commander in the Navy, and said, "You know, this guy over here says I can't get my ID card." She said, "Put him on." It was like, uh-oh. So I handed the telephone back to him and said, "My wife, Lieutenant Commander Olbrys, would like to speak to you." And then I heard, "Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Of course, ma'am. Right away, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. She wants to talk to you." Handed the phone back to me. She said, "You'll get your ID." Took my picture, gave me the ID. I ran home, picked her up. We already had the bag waiting. Loaded her in the car, loaded the bag in the car. Started the drive to the hospital. We happened to be catching the tail end of rush hour in the San Francisco Bay Area. What normally takes 20 minutes took us 45. Got to the hospital. Vaughn was very intent on having a natural childbirth. And our babies had gone full term, so they were big. Now, I had been up since 6 o'clock. My whole job during the time she was in labor was to rub her feet. And that's all I did. After about 23 hours, the obstetrician came in and said, "I'm sorry, folks, but baby A is showing signs of distress. I think we're going to have to do an emergency C-section." And Vaughn tried to talk him out of it. He said, "No, it's time." So they took us from the birthing suite we were in, got us gowned up, took us into a surgical suite, and made the incision. They pulled out baby A. Not a sound. Nothing. Immediately, 2 nurses and a pediatrician descended on baby A, started working on him. They pull out baby B. Wah! He was fine. He was 8 pounds 6 ounces of pure joy. Okay. Now they took both of the boys away, took them up to the nursery. I saw Vaughn off to her room, went up to the nursery. Now they were still working on baby A, and the boys were behind a pane of glass. I was not allowed into the nursery yet because I was not properly attired for the nursery. At this point, I had been up for over 24 hours, and I was losing it. I was going absolutely berserk at this point. When I saw what they were doing to my son, I started banging on the glass, trying to get their attention, trying to get them to stop. Next thing I knew, there was a security guard standing next to me. He said, "Sir, would you come with me, please?" He took me outside, took me down to the first floor, took me out to the back of the hospital, and said, "Man, when you finally calm down, you can come back in." I'm out there, my boys, what's going on with my boys? But I finally calmed myself down, went back up to the nursery. A nurse came out, she said, "You can come in and see your children now." Got me a gown, took me into the nursery, and I had two of the most beautiful boys in the world. At that point, I started to learn anyway, that you can catch a whole lot of flies with honey. But that anger thing was going to have to go. Thank you.